girls, welcome back to another Helluva Boss video. And this time around, after season 2 being finally done, I can now go over a proper hated characters list. And oh boy, is this going to be a fun one to talk about, especially when I reach number 1. Be warned, there will be some spoilers in this. And of course, once again, I'm going to go over some of the most hated characters in Helluva Boss so far. And without further ado, here you go and get your helmets on. Oh, yes, I am bringing back everyone's favorite annoying pansexual ex of Moxie and Millie from the one episode that he was one of, Chaz! And many of you have remembered the last time we all felt about Chaz. I don't know what he did with Millie, but it was abundantly clear from what we saw with Moxie, it would be of no surprise if he ditched her too. So to sum up, what happened was Chaz basically was in a relationship with Moxie at the time, and for a while it seemed fine, until there came a big heist, and just when Moxie needed him most, Chaz basically bailed on him. And now, after all this time, when Moxie finally got his life back together, as well as getting into a healthy relationship with Millie, he finally comes crawling back and proclaiming that he has money. Oh dear God, do I feel so bad for Eminem after all that? And to make matters worse, Chaz goes as far as tricking Moxie's father, Crimson, into thinking that he has enough money just so he could try to marry Moxie and, of course, proclaim him as his own. Yeah, this guy is practically a sicko. Wow! As I said before, wow, does this man really have a lack of shame, especially considering the fact that 2 of his exes are in the same room, and most normal people would find that pretty awkward and want to run out of a room, but he must have been 4 nut bolts of crazy. Sisters. Where do I even begin? Well, granted, there was already one mean girl with that poodle that Luna had to deal with at Queen's Bee's party, even though she only had like 1 screen time. Same with the Glam sisters, but there's just something meaner about those 2. I mean, the way they just talked to Fizzarelli, who was practically an icon, and they want to be a clown. Why? Exactly? For Mammon's favor. For Mammon's favor. Boy, did they really sign themselves up for a nasty show? And plus, while they're great singers and I do like their designs that are a bit, seem monstrous, at the same time, their personalities will probably land them into a whole boatload of trouble in terms of popularity. I mean, they're part of the Envy Ring, and from what I saw in the snippets, the Envy Ring denizens seem to look down on imps a lot. And if they're that bad with imps, I can't imagine how they are with hellhounds, and considering the amount of crowd that's in there, I'm pretty sure their popularity is going to last for a certain amount of time. Because, I mean, if they're looking down at Fizz, they're probably going to be looking down at a lot of denizens. And I'm sure they're going to get fed up with it. I know I'm kind of annoyed, especially when they try to do their mirroring twin antics. Oh boy, are they going to be fun in season 3. I know it's pretty weird that Kiki and Cletus aren't exactly the residents of hell, but for angels, they are pretty mean. Especially to poor Colin, who's only just trying to be the voice of reason and just wants to handle things the honest way possible. For Cletus, he definitely embodies the falsehood of being an angel. Like, he wears the mask, but he doesn't seem to do it right. And with him, he definitely seems to have some poor leadership skills. I mean, granted, Blitz wasn't a perfect boss himself, but he has been trying to improve himself and has been trying to learn how to make his actions work better. Cletus, I feel like, has learned nothing from the last experience they had ever since then. I understand that he was trying to be cautious in Apology Tour, but it didn't seem to land very well and came to bite him in the butt because he waited for too long. As for Kiki, she's just a bit mean in general. She, again, disregards Colin's voice of reason, even going as far as kind of justifying stealing someone's wallet. I mean, yeah, they do need money to survive, but there could be other ways they could do so without getting so crazy about it. So yeah, it definitely can be very frustrating with these characters, but I put them further up on this list because their actions aren't as hateable, but just more on the annoying spectrum of hateable characters. The next two contestants in the Hated Helluva Boss are Fathers of the Year, ladies and gentlemen. They are practically the reason why Blitz and Stolas have daddy issues. First up is King Paimon. Yeah, he claims he's a good daddy, but face it, he sucks at his job. I mean, who would go far as telling their own kid on their birthday that they're gonna get married? And I don't know how old Stolas is, but I think he's too young to even be told about this sort of stuff. He just wants to spend time with his dad and to learn a little bit of his responsibilities. Dear Lord. And on top of that, I mean, they've yet to talk about the birds and the bees, but I feel like, again, so inappropriate for a kid Stolas' age at that point. Even went as far as trying to get Blitz paid off so he doesn't have to deal with him. He couldn't even make the effort to physically go to a circus just to help Stolas be cheered up. I mean, what's it gonna take to even do that? He can't even remember his own kids without his staff helping him with that. I mean, granted, he may have a lot of kids and it can be a little hard to remember, but come on, you gotta at least try to make the effort without getting some help. Maybe even have a few memory checks up your dang sleeve for crying out loud. Cash Buxo is also another one. He is practically the reason why Blitz is a total mess in his relationships in the first place. So, yeah, in the very beginning of season 2, we learned that Cash Buxo is really not a good father, and I don't think he's a really good person. Makes me wonder what on earth that Blitz's mom ever saw in the likes of him. So he also went as far as buying his own son out, selling Blitz out for a condom and a wadded up $5 bill. You've got to be joking. That's how you view your son? That worthless? And of course, in his teen years, after the accident of a circus, he makes Blitz's life worse by going as far as physically hitting him, and of course, I wouldn't be too surprised if he made everyone go against him after the accident, even going as far as keeping Fizz away from Blitz and telling them both a bold-faced lies just because he wants more money out of a deal, no doubt. I mean, yeah, this guy seems pretty sick, but he's probably not, but that pales in comparison to the other couple characters that are further down on this list. Striker. He definitely has an air of mystery, but it's a fair bet that a few people hate him, which is why I put him so early on the list, is because of his hypocrisy. I mean, he was going on and on of how much he hated the royals and hated the Guishas in general, going as far as trying to bite Fizz's head off, metaphorically speaking, for having a relationship with Ozzy. So, of course, he, on the other hand, has not a romantic relationship with Stella, but is working under Stella and her brother Andrealphus, and even going as far as helping them frame Blitz for something he didn't do in Mastermind. So, yeah, you can understand why not many people would love him at that point. I mean, what he did was pretty hypocritical. I get that he's upset with Blitz for blowing him up, but to go as far as setting him up for this framing, not only does that look bad on him, but it makes him a practical traitor to his imp kind. Yes, Mammon, the former boss of Fizzarali. When he came across in the series, he seemed to be like your stereotypical businessman, up to exploit anyone possible. I mean, he even went as far as just trying to hide the fact, and failing to do so, that he wants to exploit somebody. However, he's able to wrap people around his thumb, except for Blitz, who seems to have a knack of looking through the disguises of other people. Not completely well, but at least enough to know that this guy is just garbage. Mammon even makes more apparent of his garbage personality when he goes as far as giving Fizz a hard time about his physical appearance, as well as just dieting, making him doing dangerous stunts, even making poor Fizz just lose it, and not being sensitive enough to the fact that he's dealing with a lot, especially when poor Fizz was dealing with a deranged fan. This guy has no regards for anyone. And I'm pretty sure in Mastermind he secretly wanted to destroy Blitz because he was the one imp that openly insulted him in front of everyone, so I'm pretty sure that was part of a reason. He even went as far as insulting the relationship that both B and Ozzy have with their respective partners. So yeah, this guy's definition of petty, but I would be danged if I didn't have my theory that he was going to betray the sins happen somewhere. There has been some speculation that since greed is such a very destructive sin, I wouldn't put it past him of going as far as betraying the other sins and then trying to overthrow Satan in the dynamic of power. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to mention this later on in a series, then a theory later on. Whoo, boy. Just when you thought you couldn't find anyone worse than Stella, just when you thought you couldn't find a father figure who could be just as bad as Buxo or even Paimon, well, this father practically blew both of those concepts right out of the water. When we learn about Moxie's past, we find ourselves wanting to hug that poor boy 6 ways till Sunday. Moxie feared Crimson for a good reason. We learn more about Crimson as being very ruthless and cruel, the polar opposite of Moxie. Heartless and manipulative, he's not above of trying to force his own son into marrying a douchebag in order to get a few bucks out of a deal, and it made it very apparent that he is very greedy and physically abusive to Moxie. To make matters worse, he openly threatens Moxie that if he doesn't go through with marrying Chaz, he could kill Millie. Thankfully, though, Millie proves of just how difficult she is to kill in general. But that doesn't mean that Crimson is not only just cruel, he's misogynist. And I'd hate to imagine some of the things he'd said to his own wife when she is alive, though the concept of Moxie's mother being somehow alive at this point, but it is understandable that Moxie had to endure so much cruelty from this goon, and I have a feeling that the next time these two face off, one of them is going to remain standing after this. So, folks, these are just my thoughts on hated characters. And stay tuned, I will set up a hated characters list for Hazbin Hotel once it comes out. In the meantime, what do you think are the most hated characters on this list? Do a like and subscribe, and please feel free to comment below. This is Dragon Videos, signing off. I know many people like Satan, and I also like his design, but his personality is another story. He bears the horns of the imp kind, black and white on the upper top. So, why on earth does he look down on them so much since he was the one who created them? And on top of that, he thinks that they're equivalent to worthless? What? And to make matters worse, he listened to Andrelith's nonsense and this whole charade without even considering any logical points. He just wanted to get the trial done and over with, and wanted to kill Blitz just because he can.
All I was trying to do was rise above this stupid fucking place you all forced us into. Your Highness,
see
please.
where his character can be the most frustrating thing
I
ever.
can't let you.
And
This
plus,
big red
it
bitch
does
never
feel
planned on
like
hearing
that some
us
of the
out.
Sins might not like him because he's a bit of a brute, and
take
if
care of Luna
anyone
for me.
stands up against him, he'll probably beat him like a pulp. And I know this is just a little basis on what is picked up in Mastermind, but from what was being portrayed, I'd say what I'm predicting can be pretty darn accurate, and it makes me dread of how he's going to be like in Season 3. It does not even help the fact that he went as far as giving Stolas a light punishment of removing his powers, and he only came up with that only because Andrealphus just basically gave him that suggestion. So, he really can't think on his own? Did I thought there was going to be one candidate on this list? No, actually there's two. And both of them are so horrible and so hated on so many levels. Pretty much Blitz summarizes of how many of us want to do with them right now. That's right. I'm referring to Andrealphus and Stella. This duo of doom is practically the definition of toxic in terms of their sibling relationship as well as just how they are as adults. I mean, if you can call them adults anyway, They act more like overgrown babies, Stella being the worst of the two. She even goes as far as making the marriage worse, while Stolas has been trying to put up with Stella's antics as much as possible, and of course, going as far as making Stolas bad, it definitely makes her, well, petty definitely is not the best term I'd want to use for her. She screams and yells and throws a tantrum, and the closest thing she could ever do as an adult is try to get Stryker to destroy Stolas. I mean, I know cheating sucks, but this woman is very hard to sympathize with because of just how toxic she is. And on top of that, she even goes as far as making fun of Octavia and calling her own father. Well, technically, Stolas is calling Octavia, but it doesn't change the fact that Stella isn't going as far as trying to manipulate this poor girl. I'm even sure that Octavia is just treated as an imp servant, like by both her and Andreophis. Speaking of that quack, we are also having to deal with his drama queening as well. His is probably a little bit dialed down, but not by much. Even when he was going into the court, you could definitely tell that he was just full of lies, and the only reason why he was that successful in that courtroom and mastermind was only because everyone was just very small minded and maybe very dumb. I mean, come on. Even I know that he was just making up flat out lies. No one even bothered to look at the evidence or even bother to ask questions except for Visago. And apparently this guy is just petty, going as far as kicking Stolas when he's down and stripped of his powers and not allowing Octavia the choice of whether or not to see her own frickin' father. I mean, at this point, that punch that Stolas gave was a well-deserved one.
Everything you are now.
Lord, I dread what role they're gonna have in season 3, but rest assured, folks, I want their punishment as much as the next person. So, what do you think? Who do you think is the most hated character on this list? Do a like and subscribe. This is Dragon Veos signing off.